A major escalation in Latin America may be imminent. U.S. forces are reportedly on standby to strike military targets inside Venezuela, and anonymous sources, who admittedly may not know what they're talking about, say the order could come at any moment. The goal? Well, the goal is to cripple the Maduro regime's narco-terrorist network. We'll break down what's driving this operation and what a new conflict in the Caribbean could mean for Washington and the world. The U.S. is reportedly preparing to launch military actions inside Venezuela. Sources within the Trump administration told the Miami Herald that President Trump has approved strikes targeting the country's military installations, the next stage in the White House's campaign to dismantle the so-called Cartel of the Suns, a sprawling narcotics network that U.S. officials say is run directly by Venezuelan strongman Nicolas Maduro and his associates. According to multiple senior sources, of course, none of whom are authorized to open their pie holes and share this information, the strike could come within a matter of days or even hours. The plan, which was allegedly drawn up by the Pentagon and approved in principle by Trump, would hit key Venezuelan military facilities tied to drug operations with the aim of decapitating the cartel's leadership structure. Now, before we go any further, I should note that the White House is pushing back on these reports. White House spokeswoman Anna Kelly issued a statement Friday afternoon saying, quote, "Unnamed sources don't know what they're talking about. Any announcements regarding Venezuela policy would come directly from the president," end quote. But if the reports prove accurate, the operation would obviously mark a sharp escalation in what the Trump administration has already framed as a, quote, armed conflict with Latin America's narco-terrorist networks. The White House says the Maduro regime and its allies now move roughly 500 tons of cocaine each year. That's a lot of coke, with roughly half going to the U.S. and the rest to Europe. When asked if Maduro himself is a target, officials declined to say. But one source close to the operation told the Miami Herald that the dictator's time is running out. The official said, quote, "Maduro is about to find himself trapped and might soon discover that he can't flee the country even if he decided to. What's worse for him, there's now more than one general willing to capture and hand him over," end quote. Now, again, I stress that these reports and comments are coming from anonymous sources not authorized to discuss details of any impending operation. So, they may well be full of shit, or they could be well informed. That's the thing about anonymous sources. So, take it with a grain of salt. As our regular listeners will know, back in August, the Trump administration doubled its reward for information leading to Maduro's capture to $50 million. Now, that's the highest bounty ever offered by the U.S. government. Additional $25 million rewards remain in place for Interior Minister Diosdado Cabello, believed to be the guy who oversees cartel operations, and Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino Lopez, another top regime figure facing U.S. federal drug trafficking indictments. When the increased bounty was first announced, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi described Maduro as, quote, "one of the world's largest drug traffickers and a threat to our national security." The White House says Maduro uses the Cartel of the Suns to move cocaine in coordination with Mexico's Sinaloa cartel and the Venezuelan gang Tren de la Agua. As we've been tracking on the PDB, news of potential land strikes inside Venezuela come amid the U.S. military's massive buildup off the Venezuelan coast. Since August, a joint task force of destroyers, amphibious assault ships, and reconnaissance aircraft have been operating in the southern Caribbean. That force was recently reinforced with 10 F-35 fighters and MQ-9 Reaper drones stationed in Puerto Rico, aircraft that are obviously capable of precision strikes deep inside Venezuelan territory. Earlier this month, Trump also authorized the CIA to conduct covert operations inside Venezuela. And then, late last week, the Pentagon made another move, deploying the USS Gerald R. Ford, the world's most advanced aircraft carrier, along with its full strike group, including cruisers and destroyers and nearly 90 combat aircraft. With more than 4,000 sailors and Marines aboard, defense analysts describe the Ford's arrival as the final phase of a campaign to neutralize the Maduro regime's military power and the cartel networks that it protects. So far, U.S. forces have focused on maritime strikes, targeting suspected narco boats, which have killed more than 60 suspected traffickers to date. But as the strikes intensify, Pentagon officials say the traffickers have started abandoning sea routes for land-based operations. This shift in tactics reportedly prompted the Pentagon to shift the mission's focus to inland operations. I want to stress that analysts say this buildup isn't sufficient for a full-scale invasion, as the current force lacks the combat power for ground occupation. But as one defense expert put it, quote, there is plenty for air or missile strikes against the cartels or the Maduro regime. Trump's broader goal, sources say, is to cripple the cartel of the Suns through targeted operations, much like the 2020 strike that killed Iranian General Qasem Soleimani or the bombing campaign on Iran's nuclear facilities earlier this year. Still, there are major risks to consider, and for that, I award myself today's PDB Statement of the Obvious Award. Any American strike inside Venezuela could spark regional backlash from Latin American governments, and strong condemnation, of course, from Russia and China, both of which have economic and military ties to Caracas. Regarding Moscow's interests, it's important to note that a Russian transport aircraft with links to the Wagner mercenary group reportedly landed in Caracas last Sunday, suggesting that the Putin regime may be providing support to Maduro, which should shock a total of 0 people. But it appears the Trump administration may be willing to take a gamble, betting that precision strikes and a show of overwhelming force will fracture the regime without dragging America into another long-term conflict. All right, coming up next, federal agents foiled an alleged ISIS-inspired terror plot in Michigan set to unfold over Halloween weekend. I'll be right back. Hey, Mike Baker here. Well, no doubt you've noticed fall has arrived, right? Shorter days, colder nights, hopefully a fire in the fireplace. And it's that season where families come together around the table for hearty comfort food and good conversation. You know what I'm talking about. And that's what Tri-Tails Premium Beef is all about. Look, this is a terrific company. Check them out. They're a fifth-generation ranching family out of Texas, still working their land, raising cattle the right way, and producing some of the best steaks and beef that you're ever going to taste, right? And they ship it all straight to your door. And right now, for the first 30 orders over $499, they're adding a free roast to your shipment. It's a centerpiece meal that can simmer all day and remind you why gathering around the table matters. Look, it's not just about beef. It's about building the kind of tradition that your family will remember. So head on over to trybeef.com/PDB and claim yours while it lasts. Available for the first 30 orders only. Again, it's simple. Just go to trybeef.com/PDB. Welcome back to the Afternoon Bulletin. The FBI says it stopped what could have been a deadly Halloween weekend terror attack in Michigan inspired by ISIS. Agents with the Bureau's Detroit field office, in coordination with a joint terrorism task force, conducted simultaneous raids in Dearborn and Inkster, Michigan on Friday morning, arresting 5 people between the ages of 16 and 20. While details of the plot are still murky, according to a report from CBS News, the suspects had discussed carrying out a terror attack around Halloween, or what they referred to as, quote, Pumpkin Day, prompting the FBI to intervene. A source on the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force said they'd been monitoring an online ISIS chat room where at least 2 of the teenagers were discussing a potential attack. Authorities say the group was inspired by a former member of the Michigan Army National Guard, 19-year-old Amar Saeed, who was arrested in May of this year for plotting a mass shooting at a U.S. military base on behalf of ISIS. Sources told CBS News that 1 or more of the young men arrested on Friday may have known Saeed, though details of the alleged ties were not provided. While officials said it was not clear if the suspects had decided on a specific time and location for the attack, they stressed that the suspects did have access to guns. Well, it's America, so yeah, they probably had access to guns. FBI Director Kash Patel said Friday, quote, this morning the FBI thwarted a potential terrorist attack and arrested multiple suspects in Michigan who were allegedly plotting a violent attack over Halloween weekend, end quote. Patel credited the swift action of FBI agents working in tandem with local law enforcement partners for disrupting the plot. He added, quote, the vigilance of this FBI prevented what could have been a tragic attack, and thanks to their dedication, Michigan will have a safe and happy Halloween. Now, it's not clear what charges the suspects face, as court documents are still sealed. Officials said the investigation is ongoing, of course, and they're probing whether the group was self-radicalized or had broader ties to organized terror groups like ISIS. But law enforcement officials said that there's no ongoing threat to the public. And unfortunately, it is just the latest in a string of domestic terrorism cases tied to ISIS sympathizers. As I mentioned earlier, in May, federal agents arrested the former member of the Michigan Army National Guard who was in the process of planning a mass shooting on behalf of ISIS at a military facility near Detroit. Saeed was apprehended on the day of the planned attack, shortly after launching a drone near the Army Tank Automotive and Armaments Command in suburban Detroit. That's a facility that oversees the Army's tank supply chain. And in early August, the FBI arrested a man in Long Beach, California, for allegedly wiring funds to ISIS and pledging allegiance to the terror group. Over the course of 5 months, the suspect allegedly sent 12 payments, totaling more than $1,600 to 2 ISIS intermediaries overseas. Authorities also discovered what appeared to be a homemade bomb in his bedroom when they raided his Long Beach home. Well, he sounds like a real peach. And that, my friends, is the PDB Afternoon Bulletin for Friday, the 31st of October. Now, if you have any questions or comments, please reach out to me at pdb@thefirsttv.com. And remember, if you can, catch this weekend's episode of our PDB Situation Report. We've got great guests this weekend, as always, and you can tune in and learn stuff while you sit on the sofa and sort out your Halloween candy stash. So it'll be tasty and informative. I'm Mike Baker, and I'll be back over the weekend with the PDB Situation Report. Until then, stay informed, stay safe, stay cool. Hey, Mike Baker here. Let me take just a moment to talk about personal finances. And let me start with a question. Do you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt or personal loans? Well, with credit card debt at all-time highs, Debt Relief Advocates is notifying customers of debt relief that's now being made available and is designed to aid consumers who are dealing with out-of-control credit card debt. Those who qualify and enroll for this relief program may only have to pay back a fraction of what they owe. This is not a bankruptcy or a debt consolidation loan. This is a relief program that credit card companies, frankly, would rather you not know about. It could end your debt troubles and could save you a lot of money. Consumers owing at least $10,000 in credit card debt or personal loans can now take advantage of this debt relief as the cost of living continues to rise. To learn what debt reduction you may qualify for, just go online and visit DRA.com. That's DRA.com. One more time, DRA.com.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and leave a comment, a really positive, nice, and kind comment. That would be appreciated. And if you're not already subscribed to our channel, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our daily updates.